Chapter 1021. Under Wilbur's hard work, the thin sword had finally been given a second attribute: numbing. This was one of the elements of the thunder cultivation method. Any weapon with a numbing attribute would, upon breaking skin, cause the opponent to go numb in a battle. Of course, this effect differed depending on the opponent. Regular mortals would be numb for a few minutes, and ambience-level cultivators a few seconds. Even sanctuary-level cultivators would go numb for at least a second, which would be enough to cause their demise in a battle. That definitely made this sword an impressive weapon now. It was said that once a weapon was given 12 attributes, a super attribute would be forged, and it would become a true Goldie weapon dubbed the Dawn of Gods. It was clear just how terrifying a weapon would be with such a name. It was a shame, however, that adding each new attribute would get subsequent more difficult. There had not been a cultivator who had succeeded in doing this yet. In a day and age like this, it was hard enough to come by a weapon with even 2 attributes, let alone the Dawn of Gods. Everyone had just treated the Dawn of Gods as a myth too. Passing the thin sword around in his hands, Wilbur realized that this was the first weapon that he had given an attribute to. It deserved a name. A second later, he mumbled, "I'll call you the Dark Disperse then." The name was comprehensive enough, and the sword itself was black in color. Wilbur felt like the name suited it pretty well and was even a little smug about it. It was a little amusing that someone as uncultured as him was able to think up a name like this. After playing with the sword for a while, Wilbur left the Dark Disperse in the demiplane before leaving. 3 days had passed when Wilbur finally returned to his room. Even he was a little shocked by this. Time passed by quickly when one was focused on doing something, but it also had something to do with the flow of time in the demiplane. As Wilbur's powers improved and he understood more about the power of the universe's laws, Wilbur realized that time flowed very slowly in the demiplane. A day in real life felt like a mere few hours in the demiplane. However, the reason behind that phenomenon was still unclear. Just then, an overwhelming hunger struck Wilbur as his stomach let out a loud groan. It was still morning then, and Wilbur left the island to drive to Henwoods. He had not been there in a while and honestly missed the food. Wilbur arrived not long after, and the bakery owner perked up at the sight of Wilbur before serving heartily. Wilbur sat down and ordered 3 large sandwiches, 2 mushroom soups, and 10 croissants. He was prepared for a feast. Just then, a girl in a dress and glasses sat down across from Wilbur before ordering breakfast as well. Wilbur glanced at her before falling back into thought. He was going to have to make some money and a steady amount of it. The church's expenses would be a problem if he did not do so. Very soon, the sandwiches were served, and Wilbur dug in eagerly. To his misfortune, his phone fell to the ground. Wilbur shook his head, bending over to pick his phone up. The screen was now cracked. Wilbur let out a sigh of dismay. He had been given this phone by his department and would probably have to refer to them to have it fixed. Wilbur straightened back up with a huff, pocketing his phone and continuing to eat.